In terms of what type of solutions people use, here in this chart, we show you a variety of things you can do to promote your online marketing agenda. Going from the bottom of the list, from Twitter campaign to looking at social influences, video distribution, press releases, links, branding, all the way up to pay-per-click, search engine optimization, and so forth. What we see is that there is a tendency to do a certain things in-house and some of the newer type of media which is coming out to outsource. And so if you look at the top half of the chart, you will notice that the things which are much newer, such as pay-per-click, pay-per-call, ad exchanges, SMS, text messaging, about more than half of those are done outside by somebody else. You can see the numbers are less than 50%. And technologies which are more mature, the approaches which are more mature, companies feel more comfortable bringing them in-house. So Twitter, even though it may be new, it's still majority of it is done in-house, press releases done in-house, and so on and so forth. So this is how the destinations look like. If you were to compare this with the accommodation, you see a slightly different picture. Here you have two series of bar chart. The one which is slightly gray is the one I showed you earlier, and then the new green color bars are for accommodation. And you do not see the bars aligned in exact same way. So what that tells me is that what people in accommodation industry consider to be an easier thing to do in-house is not same as what people in destinations feel like easier to do. So I'm going to go back one slide just to show you. Let's go back a bit. If you go back here again, just to remind you, okay, I'm at right spot now, yeah. So again, you can see that, the top half was very different from this slide over here. And so if I were to just highlight some of the key differences, if you look at SMS text messaging, accommodations are doing a lot more in-house. The branding and press release distribution are being a lot more in-house, and so on. All right, so let's continue on. Some other results. We asked the respondents, because many people said that they are using outside agencies to help them with their work. We asked them, well, what % of the time you use specialized agency versus a general agency? And so what we see here is of the work which is outsourced, what % of those are going to a specialized firm? The further right you go, the more specialized firm are being used for that particular activity. First big thing which we see here is that all the green color bars are a lot more to the right than the purple ones, which means that the accommodations industry are using more specialized firm, which in my opinion means that the maturity level in understanding what needs to be done for each of those particular steps is way higher in accommodations than destinations. They have identified some unique firms who can help them in getting the job done, and so therefore they are taking their help versus going to some general provider. There will be obvious difference between which type of firm you choose to do a specific work, but what we find here is that in the destinations, there is a gradual tendency where certain things are more given to specialized firm, the lower half of the screen, and certain things are done more to a general firm, but we don't see the same trend in accommodation. Quite a bit of difference between the two industries. All right, in terms of building different types of platforms so that the message of the organization can be given out to the world, what we see is that a lot of more, again, established website-based technologies are being developed in-house. There is a slight difference between accommodation and destination, but not a whole lot. Generally speaking, the trend is very similar. Corporate websites and social sites are being managed in-house, but then mobile apps and mobile websites are being outsourced. So that hopefully is similar to what you have seen. In terms of what type of solutions people use, there's a whole range of options people are using. There is no one dominant approach, as you can see here. Some people are using enterprise solutions, others are using open source. Lots of them are investing in various type of custom platforms they can use. And of course, we don't know what those custom platforms are, but there's an even mix here. So there's lots and lots of variety as far as this particular part is concerned. In terms of how often people are developing their websites and platforms so people can get information, what we see is that a small % of organizations are investing their time and effort to redevelop their websites every year. Only about 10% for the destination and about 23% for accommodations. More so are investing in about 2 years, and a whole lot of them every 3 years. Again, in my opinion, I think 3 years is a lifetime in this world. As we noticed, there were companies who didn't even exist 3 years ago. There was no Groupon, right? Facebook was much smaller. There are many other examples like that which will tell us that this topic needs a lot more attention than it's being currently given. Finally, towards the end of the survey, we asked people to tell us what type of initiatives they have in place, and these are some examples. How many of them have social media strategy? Close to 75%. How many of them provide purchasing capabilities? Actually, again, close to 75%. And how many of them have internal staff to manage reputation? Those three are quite high. The other, there's a little bit of variance, and as you can look at the graphs yourself. I think using some of the, again, newer technologies are not as common as we would like to see. In terms of who manages social media, this was interesting to us. We thought we should try to understand, is it public relations or e-commerce group or perhaps operations? Who should be looking at that? Again, building off the earlier comment this morning that, when you have a problem, you want to give the problem back to the department responsible for taking care of it. But here what we see is that marketing and sales is the one who is taking the lead in managing social media, not anybody else in the operation. Now, blogs are an important part of social media as well. Somebody has to post the blogs. Somebody has to, communicate informally, in a semi-informal way, what information is being communicated. And if you look at blogs, what we find is that about half the organizations in the accommodation industry maintain some sort of a blog, much smaller in the destination. We also find that most of the senior executives, like presidents and CEO, they are not themselves personally managing blog. That particular activity is done at the mid-management level, such as director of marketing, social media, PR, or sometimes even hiring folks from outside organization to help them with doing this work. Okay, in terms of which social media sites are more effective. So we had given the respondents a long list where we showed them various options which is available to them and asked them, well, tell us your relative effectiveness. And as we see in many similar examples, I think there are a few outlets which are a lot more effective, at least perceived to be more effective than the other ones. I don't even need to explain this slide. I think it's very clear that the top 3 are Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and closely followed by LinkedIn. All right, so comes to the end now, almost to the end. All the great insights, but then there are always some frustrations, right? I mean, there are some issues which need to be addressed more than before. So we asked them to, on a scale, basically tell us what, do these activities are frustrating to you in your job as the online marketer? And what you will see in a second here is basically the difference between different type of things which are frustrating to them. The bottom two, resource limitations and budgets, they are clearly something which has been identified by industry as which needs to be looked at more carefully, and you saw that in the data as I presented. But then the rest of the stuff seems to be pretty good. I think if you look at any other similar examples for other part of the organization, I have a feeling we'll see a lot more bars going to the right. But here we only have two big issues, resource constraints and budget constraints. So that brings me back to the reason for doing this work is basically to be able to learn from what's going on outside and trying to find if there are ways so we can do it better. And as I mentioned earlier, we will have a report ready on this to be distributed to all of you freely. It'll be through the Center for Hospitality Research website. Melissa will have some brochures for you available after the session, and also they'll be available during the lunch hour if you would like to take a look and then see what other information is available. Thank you very much for your attention.